learning about races writing. Growing writers understand that we use races when we're writing to inform. This is when we're writing to tell information. That's what the word inform means. This week, at the beginning of the week, we broke down the prompt. Yesterday, we wrote our R, where we restated what the prompt was asking. We wrote, the author gives evidence to help the reader believe Miss Franny and Opal will be friends for a long time. Yesterday, we also wrote the A in our writing. We wrote, many examples in the text can be found to prove the two will be forever friends. Now we are going to brainstorm our ideas for the C in races. So we are moving to the next section of our graphic organizer. I'm noticing in my notes that the C says, use evidence from the text to support your answer. So I'm going to go back to Winn-Dixie, and I'm going to find sentences from the story to prove my idea in the A of races, which once again was many examples in the text can be found to prove the two will be forever friends. So I'm going back to the text. Your eyes are on the screen as I'm looking at where I can prove this idea. I'm noticing at the very end of the text, it tells me, certain ones, said Miss Franny, a select few, and then she turned around and winked at me. I smiled back. I had just made my first friend in Naomi, and nobody was going to mess that up for me, not even old pinch-face Amanda Wilkinson. I think this is when the author is telling me they're going to stay friends. I know that because if she's not going to let Amanda Wilkinson stop her from being friends, then that is how the author is proving they will stay friends. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it straight from the text. That is the C in races. So you are now going to write with me in your interactive notebook on page 92. I'm adding the C. In this class, we always start our C with the same sentence. The text says, all students are writing. After the word says, I'm going to put a comma and open quotes. And now I'm going to write the sentence straight from the text. Exactly what it says in Because of Winn-Dixie. I've highlighted it in blue, but now I'm going to actually write it. I smiled back, so I'm going to add that to my graphic organizer after my quotation. And now I'm going back to the text, and I'm going to copy the next part. I had just made my first friend in Naomi. All students are writing with me. I'm not finished yet, almost. And now I'm going to go back one more time. It tells me, and nobody was going to mess that up for me. So I'm going to add that. When I finish that sentence, I'm always going to put an end quote to show it came straight from the text. The text says, I smiled back. I had just made my first friend in Naomi, and nobody was going to mess that up for me. This is my C in races. C means cite evidence from the text to prove your answer. Since my answer said they would be forever friends, My evidence now proves they will be forever friends. Now I'm moving to the E in races. I'm noticing my notes tell me that E says, and I'm going to highlight, explain how the text evidence supports my answer. This is what the E tells me I must do. So on my graphic organizer, I'm going to explain how my evidence that I just wrote in the C supports my answer from yesterday. So now let's go ahead and start that E in our graphic organizer. In this class, we will always use the same sentence starter for the E in races. And it will always sound just like this. Since the text says blank, this shows blank. Since the text says blank, this shows blank. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in my E as you write with me. Since the text says and now I'm going back to my C. My C says she had just made her first friend and no one would mess that up. So I'm going to write that. Since the text says Opal and Miss Franny we're now friends. And she would not allow Amanda to stop them. This shows you should be writing with me. And now I'm going to go back and think about my answer that we wrote yesterday in our graphic organizer. So yesterday we wrote that we're proving they will be forever friends. That's what we wrote in the A. So now I'm going to state that again. This shows they will be forever friends. I'm going to change it to sound a little different. They will be friends forever. The E in races stands for explain. How does your C or cite prove your A or answer?